Meeting guests' expectations. You now understand time expectations, but it's also important to know how to meet those expectations. If you know what guests expect, then you will know what kind of response is required. But it's not just about your ability to respond, it's also about how you respond. On your way to mastering true responsiveness, you will learn the importance of accountability, how to manage guests' expectations, and anticipate the guests' needs. So what is the importance of accountability? Accountability means taking responsibility for each guest's experience and doing everything possible to solve their issue or request yourself, even if the request falls outside your role. This is another way of saying that you need to own the guest's experience. So, for example, instead of saying, "I'm sorry, I'm not sure about this. May I refer you to the front desk?" say something like, "I will double check that for you. May I get back to you in 5 minutes?" Accountability also means making sure that you follow through on what you have promised. Another important part of responding is managing guests' expectations. This means that when you respond honestly. It's far better to be honest than to overpromise and be unable to deliver on that promise. If you promise a fast resolution, an expectation is created that the request will be resolved quickly. If that expectation isn't met, then the guest will be disappointed. It will mean you have overpromised. Similarly, if you don't set any expectations at all, the guest will create their own expectations, which you won't be able to predict. That is why it's important to be clear and forthcoming, and explain to the guest what and when you are going to deliver. Let's take a look at the steps you should take to manage the guest's expectations. Step 1. Respond. State clearly what action you will take. Step 2. Gain agreement. Check that the guest understands and agrees with the course of action you will take. Step 3. Resolve the request. Take action to resolve the guest request, keeping the guest informed if it takes longer. Step 4. Follow up. Go back to the guest and make sure they are satisfied. Another important aspect of true responsiveness is giving the guest what they require before they ask. This is called anticipating the guest's needs. Using your specific knowledge of a particular guest and your experience with previous guests, try to predict what guests might need. For example, Monica anticipated that this guest, who is traveling with her children, might need extra towels because there are more than 2 people in the room. When you are accountable and honest, know how to manage a guest's expectations and how to anticipate a guest's needs, you can deliver exactly what guests expect. And that is the heart of true responsiveness. It's time for you to reflect on what you have learned